Hello and welcome back to the Blossoming Together podcast. Today, Kirsten and I will be talking about common mistakes BCBAs make and some of the common mistakes we've made in our own practices. So let's go over the objectives first. The first objective is identifying common mistakes in ABA practices. 2, analyzing the impact of common mistakes. And
the third one is develop strategies for avoiding common mistakes, and then apply reflective practices and self-assessment techniques to identify areas of improvement.
Ooh. All right. So the first common mistake I feel like we've seen across the board while we've been working, things I've read on like Reddit and the Facebook groups, is that a lot of BCBAs aren't conducting functional analyses.
Yeah, like conducting functional analyses or completing like full functional behavior assessments in general.
And I feel like I agree. There's been a lot of times I haven't always done it either.
Yeah.
Just even I feel like there's that barrier. I wasn't taught how to do a true FBA.
Yeah, and or like each of the steps.
Yep. Even in school, I feel like we were always assigned this project. And even I've seen other students assign this project. And when we go to like your supervisor, they are told like, oh, there's no time. We can't bill for that.
Yeah. So sometimes I just see only ABC data being collected for behaviors, which is, it's really important. We do ABC data.
But there needs to be more.
There's so many more steps. Like you got to start with interviewing the parent and getting to know like the problem behavior and talk to your techs and getting to know what that looks like.
And collecting there's more other types of data other than ABC data.
What kind of data are you thinking?
I mean like time sampling, frequency data, stuff of that sort. And then also there are other assessment tools you can use like FAST.
Yes, the FAST. Oh my gosh, I forget the one.
QBA. I forget what is it called. QB
something.
QB something. We'll add it to it later. But that's one of them.
I've been thinking a lot. So when I was a practicum student, I really enjoyed like my school program because I had these. I think I've talked about it in the past. We had these forms that I had to get done each semester to like say if I was competent in an area or not. And one of the areas that we had to do was functional analyses.
Yeah.
When I brought it to my practicum supervisor, she was like, I've never done an FA.
I feel like this is what happens. And every time you do it, they're like, let's just make one up.
Yes,
let's make one up. A lot of schools allow this. They're like, you're allowed to be make up a client.
Yeah, mine, we weren't allowed to. So we ended up like doing it. I think there's like a barrier for us as practitioners. We can't do FAs often because they take a lot of resources. They take a lot of individuals. You have to pay a lot of people for not billing. They take a lot of time and money. But we don't take into consideration there's like so many other FA options now. You can do like the modified FA or like Hanley's FA.
Right. You want to talk a little bit? Did you get to do that?
I've done a little bit of like Hanley's FA. So I don't know. I like his procedures that he's written out.
Yeah, he's great. Everyone loves Hanley. But like that, there's been, me and you were talking, and there's been a lot of times where you've like inherited a case, and when you read through like the BIP, it just says like through observation.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what does that mean? Like, did they see it once? Did they see it twice? And like, come up with a function, not make up a function.
Yeah, but like identify the function based on one observation. Something else that I've seen is they have identified the function after just talking to one person in that child's life. Like if that was the technician or just one parent based on one instance of behavior. But we have to like take into consideration that some of these behaviors might be on like a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. They're being reinforced intermittently. Right. So we need a sample of data before we can identify necessarily what the function is.
And I feel like this happens a lot because, I've been in these shoes too.
Yeah.
Where, someone's coming to you, like either a parent or technician or maybe a teacher. They're saying this behavior is happening. I don't know what to do. And you feel like you're the person that's supposed to fix it.
And we are on like a time crunch.
You're on
you have to do it quickly and get them a plan
and
immediately.
You don't know how severe the behavior may be. So you just come up with the plan that you think is going to be best.
Of course.
But you're forgetting such a crucial part of what needs to be done.
I think so too. And I think something else to like think about is it's okay to have a time period. I know that sometimes there are clients or learners with severe behaviors. And I think we are rushing to get the behavior plan done because a lot of times the technician needs to know what to do or other services parents need to know what to do.
But you can take the data you could take some time. And if it's something severe, you can still block it.
Yes.
If it's like severe head banging, it's fine to like intervene and like block that and redirect that. But you would just note that in your data.
Sometimes even we want to keep the learner safe at all times. But I like to especially when I'm talking to technicians, like in the interim between the time that like the client starts and I create their behavior plan, sometimes the tech will be like, what do I do? In the meantime, and I'm like, don't do anything different. Because if you're doing procedures, changing things if you're doing interventions that's impacting the ABC data, that's not baseline.
Right.
You're now adding a treatment without like having like basis for the treatment.
And you're not a bad BCBA for doing that. No. You can remind them like a plan is coming. I just need to take some more data. I have a few more people to talk to. Yes. And then we'll get you a plan.
Yeah. And I think that's totally fine. Like you said, though, we do want to ensure that the learner is safe. So if this is a severe behavior case, let's like think of a different way to collect the data. That might be the time for the FA, so we can like have quicker data from like exactly what the behavior is going to look like.
I agree. Yes. All right, what else do you feel like is a common mistake that's being made?
Lack of collaboration with like caregivers and stakeholders. Sometimes when we are like doing intakes or creating treatment plans, we are creating those without considering like what is necessary for the learner's family and like what is going to be important to them based on goals. We are writing the goals. Like, this is what I think is appropriate for this learner at their developmental level, but we need to think of what's socially significant for the family.
And if other caretakers can also implement those strategies, right? You know, what works for them. We've talked about this a lot, like trying to be compassionate and have some empathy for what's going on outside of the clinic, what their home life may be, and just coming up with plans based off of what you see in one place is not enough.
No, it has to be generalizable to their home life. And like you said, the treatment plans that we decide, especially for behavior plans, before deciding don't spend all your time writing up a behavior plan or a treatment plan just for the family to say, there's not a chance I can work on that at home. Or there's not this goal isn't important to me. I don't really care that if my child does this. All right, guys. So our first code word is growth.
I have to implement this plan, right? Because it's not just parents.
No.
It's like teachers. It's siblings. Like say it's like attention maintained. Will the siblings accidentally intervene?
Yeah.
Trying to find out everyone that may be involved in that situation.
Yeah, I think that too. And something that I think we need to be mindful of is like other caregivers that are in their life too, of like grandparents. I have a lot of families where their grandparents are also like, I have a grandparent who comes to every parent meeting because they want to be involved in the treatment and they know that they are 3/4 of this child's day as well, like from the parents.
That's
so
amazing.
They want to be able to apply it too.
That's good.
Yes.
Another one is inconsistent implementation of strategies.
Okay.
So you put it into the BIP, but you're not ensuring that everyone's conducting or doing it the same way.
Oh my gosh.
And this
happens, fidelity
checks, right? So this happens a lot. You know, we're in center. We're ensuring everything in center is going great. We try also making sure we're watching both technicians, if they have 2 or 3 technicians, ensuring they're all getting supervision. But on top of that, making sure parents are conducting it properly.
Yes.
We give them the tools, but then are we like checking to see?
Yeah, I have parents join like my sessions to do an observation or like modeling it like through that. I use BST for them. So you do the whole like explain it to them, then you model it for them, and then
check to see if they're able to do it.
You provide them feedback on how they're implementing it.
And I feel like this is the one that gets missed the most too, because when we talked about parent trainings before. When you are doing parent trainings, they need to be of quality. You need to spend a lot of time doing them. You make sure you're providing these opportunities for you to check. It's not just a check-in.
No, you shouldn't just like, sometimes it is really important for that parent. They need that like check-in for the week, but like dedicate time to also learn the skills that you want them to teach. That's where it comes in with your parent training goals. You want your parent training goals to reflect the goals that are in your report and having parents apply them at home.
Right. And if parents aren't implementing or caregivers aren't implementing this at home, then it's just going to go down the drain.
That's when you're going to get parents coming and be like, oh my gosh, I see all these skills here at the center. You're seeing so much. Why am I not seeing it at home?
And that's the worst.
Yeah.
And then I feel like this is also one of those things you get stuck. A lot of BCBAs don't get proper training on how to conduct parent training.
Yeah.
And then they're just trying to wing it when they're there, and then they miss this really crucial step.
Right.
And I feel like it's okay. Like we've all been there.
Yeah.
Remembering that too.
And I think with inconsistent implementation too, like, yes, we supervise our technicians. Like if they have 2 technicians, we try and supervise both of them. Modify your teaching strategy based on which technician you're supervising, because they're going to learn differently. And we're all human. Like you and I are going to do things differently. So they might do things a little bit differently, but just ensure that they're getting like the core of what your treatment is.
Yeah. I get that. also, I kind of feel like it's okay, like remembering like if someone's making a mistake, like it's okay to give them that feedback, like parents especially. I feel like this is where people get like really tripped up too. Like, well, like they feel like, oh yeah, we're working for the parent, but no, like you're really there for the client too.
Yes.
And like this will help our client if I give them this feedback.
And the thing is, yes, you are working for that parent. ABA services are so much money. The parent wants the highest quality services. They want to get everything out of it. They might not know what to expect.
And they don't know what to do. That's the thing. That's why they're coming to you.
Right. So we are the professional. It's on us to teach them and provide them those strategies. I agree.
Yeah. All right. The next one.
Yes. Another mistake that I have seen is failure to stay up to date on research.
Yeah.
So
this is hard too.
With what time?
Yeah. But remembering like we're required to take continuing education credits.
Yeah.
That's why it's easy to sign up for a podcast like this and listen to it on your drive in.
Come listen to Blossoming together.
But like jokes aside, you need to go in and see what's being like what research is being published.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like in the most recent like couple weeks, I feel like I've seen so much good stuff.
There's so much that it's always changing, and that's good. Like our field should be progressing, and that's when we're going to make these like big field changes that we have been looking for, like towards compassionate care and like putting the learner first. The only way to do this is to follow the research and like watch the research grow.
Right.
A way that I try, like one strategy that I was using for a little while to stay up to date on research, I would assign my practicum student research, because a lot of times they're looking for
intervention strategies.
Or hours, ways to get hours. So I find like a learner that student and I are working on like developing interventions, and I assign them articles to read because they need to learn how to digest articles. And then I ask them to provide me a summary and we discuss it back and forth, so that like not only are they learning new research, but I am like getting some more information from them too on like up-to-date research.
I feel like even LinkedIn, Facebook groups, a lot of research is being published. Like people will share articles they found or research they find interesting. But just even keeping in mind, like I finished school almost 2 years ago.
Right.
And the research has changed so much since then.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much more emphasis on quality, compassionate care, empathy, the new 7 dimensions of ABA.
Yeah.
Now there's an
add
eighth
the eighth dimension.
So remembering things do change. And, it sucks. We spent like maybe $60,000, $70,000 on like
on our education.
But that's not enough. We need to keep learning more.
No, that's on us. Yeah. It's our responsibility. It's within our ethics code.
And I feel like it's hard because when I first started taking like CEUs, I went and I like probably like signed up for like the dumbest ones.
Okay.
Because I was like, that sounds interesting, but had nothing to do with like what I needed to know.
I agree. Yeah. Sometimes like I find that, well, I've talked about it a little bit in the past. My first time that I recertified, I waited so long to get my CEUs because I was so busy trying to like do everything right for all of my learners that I neglected a little bit of like gaining the CEUs. Yeah. So then I was rushing and I wasn't getting the quality.
What were you watching? I feel like I like started. There was like ABA, like True Crime Pad.
Oh my
gosh.
Podcast.
I haven't listened to hate, but like I was just like, oh, let me just watch them. I had nothing. Like I didn't learn anything from this.
Right.
Yeah.
I had found that I would just find the free ones.
Yeah.
And sometimes those weren't the highest quality, or I would just find the ones that had like the most like hours. I'd be like, okay, this one has 2.5 hours. I need to just do it to get 2.5 credits.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even looking at what the content was. And I was horrible. Like, okay, here it is.
Boo.
I know. Terrible mistakes.
All right. And then we already kind of touched on this.
Yeah.
So I feel like we can just skip like neglecting parent involvement.
Yeah.
Remember, guys, it's important.
The parents, yes, this is their whole world. We see their learner for a few hours of the day. This is that parent's whole life.
Yeah. And then the next one is, I know you wanted to talk about this.
Yes. So focusing solely on deficits, learner deficits. And this is something as a field that I think we are shifting a little bit, but sometimes it's not prioritized enough. But like within reports, only talking about what the learner cannot do.
Yeah.
And we need to have that because we have to explain to insurance why our services are necessary.
Yeah.
But imagine being the parent who's only reading everything that their learner can't do. We need to emphasize on the stuff that they can do and like all the progress that they've made as well.
And even like doing something simple and like the assessment writing did not demonstrate at the time of assessment can make a lot of like impact.
Yeah.
But I feel like when we're writing, we're just quick, like not copying. Like, we're just like, quick, let's get it done. But remembering a parent is reading this.
Yes.
And they've been waiting maybe like 6 months to get, since the last report, 6 months to see how much their child has learned.
And they look forward to this.
They look forward to it. So also like noting down like maybe in like the background section or like the direct, like things that happened that may show that they also made some progress.
Another way that I do this is within my like parent meetings as well. I feel like sometimes we go in like, what are you struggling with? What's hard at home? Yeah. I really try and prioritize too, like, oh my gosh, what big wins are you seeing?
And asking those like maybe after like a tougher conversation. Like, were there any wins? And I always try to have one that I want to share just in case they're like everything sucks.
Some days everything feels like it sucks.
Yeah, so just highlighting something that fun that happened during the week at the center maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I also try and teach parents to celebrate the small wins. Because sometimes, like, as parents, we want, like, again, we said that this service is a lot of money for them. They're putting a lot of their resources into it. So they want to see those big wins and, like, big growth opportunities. But celebrating the little things, because each little step is going to get them like to further a bigger and further thing in life.
Yeah. And even reminding them there's a lot of steps to the bigger milestone. Yeah. So like after they show like, oh, like this little thing happened, be like, well, that's good because it's on our way to remember that goal you really wanted.
Yes.
We'll get there. We'll get there because your kiddo just showed me they can do this.
Like check out all these little things that they're doing. Yeah.
All right. So we kind of want to also like talk about some of the mistakes we've made.
Yes.
Because, we can talk about things we've heard about, things we've seen, but everyone makes mistakes and we just kind of want to talk about those too.
Yeah. I think it's really important to remember like, we are human. We're going to make mistakes. And like, because we've made mistakes, it doesn't make us a poor BCBA.
Yeah.
Because we're growing from the mistakes that like shows that we like our strengths, you know?
All right. So do you want to start or should I start?
You can start. Go ahead.
All right. So one of the first ones I feel like were I expected every tech I had to be like me. In the sense like you should be loud and energetic and just like all up in your face. But I failed to realize, not everyone is like that, and that's not what every client needs.
You shouldn't necessarily like duplicate yourself in order for that to be like a quality session.
No, not everyone needs to be like me. I don't need to shape everyone to be like me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was really hard though. I'd get someone that was a little quiet and I'd be like, well, they're not good because they're not energetic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like hard. I was thinking about that too, of like when I went into supervision, like that was like I was like, okay, because that's what I would look for in a technician is like, that's the only thing that I knew off the top of my head. I was like, okay, I liked how I teched.
Yeah.
I need to like,
and everyone told me I was like good at it. So that has to be the standard, right?
Yeah.
But then I feel like I got one tech and she was just like a very calm, zen, chill person. And I was just like, she's like, this is amazing.
She's so quiet. Yeah.
And I also like, not every kiddo needs this loud.
Our loud, bubbly, crazy personalities. Yeah.
It's not what every kid needs. So just remember, like, try to see what they do first before providing like that feedback. Like, oh, like up your like voice, or can you be a little more excited or more animated? Just seeing what your client reacts to first before providing that feedback.
And even like finding the strengths within those texts, because that's the thing. Like sometimes we kind of look at it with our technicians. We look to them and we're like, okay, we need every technician to be like so-and-so or just like this, but find the strengths within each individual tech, and also know that even if you have a technician that you may think like needs some growth or like may not be as high quality as you would want them to be.
Everyone starts someplace.
Everyone starts somewhere and they have opportunity. Yeah. It's on you to guide them and shape them. And you don't have to change their personality to shape them. You can just like teach them how to implement interventions and like be there for your learner.
I feel like that's another one. Sometimes I feel like when I was a new BCBA, I'd get a new tech on the case. And I'd be like, well, great. Like this sucks.
Oh, I don't want to change.
I don't want to like, I wanted someone that was amazing and already shaped, but remembering I could like help this tech become amazing.
Yeah. We're there to teach them and guide them because they didn't go to school for this and we did.
We did.
Yeah.
But I feel like I always got stuck on that. It was really hard for me.
Yeah, it's hard, but you've grown from there.
Yes.
Look at you now.
What about you?
Something that I wanted to touch on at first was I really relied too heavily on DTT coming from like a DTT learning background. So that discrete trial training. So when I was a tech, I was trained really well to like provide NET opportunities for play and requesting, but I only did DTT for like tacting and like listener responding and those like things that I would consider now like I see them elsewhere, but at the time I considered them like
Table
table
skills,
work,
yeah.
table skills. That's like the only place you could run them. So when I became a BCBA, I wasn't a BCBA at an NET setting at first. I didn't think of other opportunities to target.
So what did you feel like you were doing when you started off?
I was in another setting where they prioritized table work, but I was wondering why some of my learners, like especially my younger learners, weren't making progress. And it's because I'm sitting at the table providing them mass trials, like 10 to 20 trials of tacting car. They're sick of the car. Two, this learner maybe they don't have an interest in cars. I wasn't following their interests to like present opportunities. I was like, well, he is 4 years old. He should be interested in cars. Most 4-year-olds are, but I wasn't like looking to what he was needing. Right. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. And also, I don't know, I feel like sometimes we've been working in ABA. That's all we're used to. Yeah. But going out and like, I don't know, a lot of us, if you don't have any family members that are around the same age as the kids we work with, like it can be like I hung out with my niece this weekend. Yeah. And just like, she took forever to respond to some of my questions. And I was like, and I was like, wait, like that's normal. That is normal. Yeah.
Like we don't need them to respond in 3 to 5 seconds.
No.
Like give them
It took her a long time. I'd be like, come here. And she'd just look at me and go, and I'd be like, well, what do I do now?
Wait, what am I supposed to do with that?
Just remembering some kiddos like also take a little bit and trying to remember.
They need processing time or like sometimes.
What's really natural.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they're going to say no. And like if you give them a question and then if you give them an opportunity to say no,
it's like normal 2 to 3-year-old things.
Yeah, 2 to 3-year-olds, they learn now. Our second code word is practice.
Another one I feel like was that I really like, we talked about like the CEUs, but I like picked some really dumb ones to start with that didn't benefit me at all. But like going forward, I wish I did.
I know. Yeah. And like what areas were you looking to focus on when you were a new BCBA with CEUs?
I feel like I wish I took more CEUs on like goal writing, intervention strategies. Yeah. I just had a few things in my toolbox. And I was like, that's enough. I spend a lot of money in school. I should know.
Or you've gotten a lot from your practicum supervisors, but like generalizing your knowledge too. Like we base a lot of how we like create our treatment plans on like how we learned. But if you didn't have a generalization of like multiple exemplars or whatever it would be, you're not going to like know exactly how you should implement your stuff.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have another mistake that you made?
Yes. One big mistake that I wanted to touch on, and it's kind of specific. When you are a BCBA, you get assigned cases typically. Yeah. Like you don't really get the opportunity to say no to a case. You're just assigned cases. Yeah. I was a brand new BCBA. It was my first like month of being a BCBA, and I was assigned a 21-year-old adult. Oh my God.
Did you work with a 21-year-old before?
I had worked with adults before, but I as a student, I wasn't the one making the decisions for them. So I didn't really like learn treatment planning.
So you were just only tacked on.
I only tacked on them. And like I like had a little bit of knowledge, but not well-rounded. This learner, she had multiple diagnoses. She was on a lot of medication. She had complex family history. And I didn't have any experience with that. And at the time I wasn't getting like mentored. We didn't have the opportunity. Like now I have a lead, so I could go to my lead and like get guidance. Right. But at the time I didn't have a lead opportunity.
So you were solo doing everything?
I was just kind of stuck and I didn't know what to do with this case. And I didn't know it's okay to explain that you don't have the competence in something. You shouldn't take on a case without competence, without seeking guidance from supervisors.
Do you feel like you ever did? Like you went and seeked it out, or is it kind of like you left the place and you kind of
ultimately it took me like probably 2 months of being on the case and trying to like, okay, I'm a BCBA now. It's on me. Yeah. And I didn't realize that like I had the opportunity to ask for help.
That's one of the ones I had too. Like I felt like, okay, well, I'm a BCBA now. And I was at a place where I knew everyone. Yeah. I was a tech at that company. I was a student at that company. And then I took on the BCBA. I was familiar with everyone, but I felt like I hated admitting that like I didn't know what I was doing.
Because we feel like as BCBAs, we're like, oh my God, we passed the exam. I should know everything now. I should be ready to do this.
But that's not true. It's just even like going to your coworkers and like collaborating and like coming up with ideas is not like saying like, oh, I suck. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's not a deficit. That's a strength for knowing that like we have all of these resources for us. Like let's all learn from each other.
I feel like that was really hard for me. And it sounds like maybe it was hard for you too.
It was really, really hard. So I ended up like I had to speak like with the clinical director, but I didn't have like a direct lead. So I
But
didn't have
that's
the
scary
communication
too, right?
opportunities.
You know, like going to your direct lead
and
be
saying
like,
that I don't know what I'm doing.
And did she react? And okay, depending on where you are, you might get a good reaction or bad reaction. What was your boss's reaction?
It ended up not being the most ideal situation. I ended up having to like be removed. I ultimately removed myself from the case. I said like, I can't do this for the family. And I advocated for that family.
And what did she say?
They weren't thrilled, but it is what it is. I had to do what's best for the learner. It's not.
But that's where I feel like a lot of people get stuck too. They're like, I don't want to disappoint this person.
Yes.
And I don't want to like go with my problems. And like someone's giving you pushback. They're like, no, you can do it.
No, you can do it. Or here's this. It's like, that's not a resource.
Yeah, or here's
like,
an article. I'll try this.
It's like, I need specific guidance or mentoring, but we didn't have those opportunities.
That
so it really stinks, but I learned from that. And like, I learned now, one, how to ask for help early on.
Yeah.
Like if I feel
What does that
I'm
look
struggling.
like for you? You feel like?
I feel like
I go to my lead. I'm like, I don't know what I'm stuck.
Yeah, I go to my lead, or like if I don't know something, I look for CEUs on the topic. But like within that, it's just you have to admit your faults.
Need help.
Yeah, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So I've grown from there. But
Do you have any silly ones?
Oh my gosh, so this is something. It happened when I was like very pregnant. I think I was like 36 weeks, 37 weeks pregnant. We call it like a space pregnancy brain. I had like no idea what was going on, I feel like. And a family told me in a parent meeting 2 weeks before that their child was going to be out for a day. And I was like, oh yeah, I wrote it down in my notes. I wrote it in like my caregiver form, and I completely forgot to let scheduling and the team know. So the tech's waiting in the lobby and like walks up to me and is like, where's so-and-so? And I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then I like look and I was like, oh my gosh, it's May 10th, whatever they're not here today. They told me ages ago. I'm so sorry.
It's okay because I've done the same thing, but the other way around where I knew this was like when scheduling had told me there was like no coverage.
Yeah.
And I think I just had like a busy day. I forget like what exactly happened.
Yeah, it's like, what was the situation?
And then like the client came to the center.
Oh my gosh.
Or maybe I told them the wrong day. Like I just had done it really quickly and I said the wrong day and the client was there.
You jotted it down.
And like I got a call. I was like on vacation that day too. Like, oh, so-and-so was here.
Yeah.
And I was like,
you're like, wait a second. They don't have a technician? What do we do? What did they end up doing?
Mom was like very nice and understanding. She was like, okay, we'll go have some fun.
Okay, bye.
McDonald's.
That's fine. At least they made fun out of it.
They made some fun out of it. But things like that happen. So try and stay as organized as you can.
I was going to speak on that. So organization. So we joke a lot now that like I'm the type A person. You're a little bit more chaotic and a little messy with like how you organize in your desk and everything. The reason I'm so strict with my like organization now is because I made so many mistakes early on about like not remembering when assessments were due and then getting like 3 weeks out from the assessment and panicking.
Rushing.
Yes,
and I feel like my work isn't quality then, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Or
I'm just trying to get it done.
Yes. Or I have to dedicate all this time and like now I'm losing like valuable time for other things because I'm rushing to do it. Yeah. So early on, I think it's important to just like identify an organization method for yourself. And it doesn't have to look like
the same other ones.
Yes.
But that's where I feel like a lot of mistakes do get made is like you forget.
Yes.
And like, to be honest, our job has a lot of, like, there's so many due dates. Parents are telling you dates. Other people are telling you dates. I get, like, a lot of my clients mixed up sometimes.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, who's going to be out on Friday?
I know someone's not here, but, like, who?
Which one is
it? If I didn't write it down or I didn't put it someplace,
yeah,
no way anyone could have known what I was thinking.
Right. So, yeah, I think that was a big mistake early on was just my organization. Like I thought that I could just keep track of it in my head and like know exactly how many hours this learner needed for supervision, know like exactly when my parent meetings were. And I forgot a few things. It was like a rough start.
Another one about like little details is I was rushing to put some programs in because, you know, it took me a while to get the assessment done. And like we were on like a personal questions. I was writing a personal questions program. And, you know, like I was trying to put the date in, like the question was like, when is your birthday? And I was looking, like I quickly looked for like the date the client's birthday was in to put it in as target. And I guess on that document, that one, I only checked one document because I was rushing.
You're like, oh, it was wrong. The assessment, whatever.
So I put it into intervention and we taught this kiddo his birthday like a day off.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what the worst thing is? Like I've sent that video to parents and they didn't respond. They didn't even tell me I did it wrong.
You're like, wait a second.
And then one day, like...
I was going to say, how'd you find out?
I think, like, next re-auth, I went and I was like, I had some more time, I guess, so I was looking through something. Yeah. I was like, the birthday's...
That's not their birthday.
Like, I just knew his birthday because I'd heard it so many
35 times.
So then I was like, crap, like... And
you're probably thinking the reports are all wrong at this point. You're like, oh my God, I wrote it down wrong.
And then I went back and I was like, I checked this and it was wrong on that. No. So then, I had to tell parents like what I did and then we had to reteach it.
Yeah.
But like,
it's just like silly.
It was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, do other people make mistakes like this?
Everyone makes mistakes. I think something else like that I'm thinking about with like organization and trying to remember things is we have so much on our plates as BCBAs. Yeah. Like we really have to do a lot and like keep track of so many different things. I struggled a little bit with prioritization of like assigning myself my tasks, like because
which one's more important?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, literally. So like if I had a learner who had like needed a behavior plan, but this person needed their reassessment done and this person needed materials, I had a hard time trying to figure out what to do first because I was like, wait, they're all important. I don't have anyone helping me. Like I need to get it all done. So, but I'm like, no, you need to like really prioritize like
making a list. Maybe is that what you did?
Well, or I'll like think about like, okay,
I'm a brain dump. Like I need to write it down.
Yeah, write it all down
and then figure it out from there.
Yes, but I was like, okay, this learner needs a behavior plan. That's a little bit more important than getting like a social story in for this learner. So it's just like learning your prioritization.
But then even once you prioritize, like explaining to the next person, so many people depend on you. That's the hard part.
And the tech's like, wait, I don't have this still. And
the technician's like, I don't have like this program material, or like, oh, we're low on this,
or you still didn't update this program. And I'm like, I'm trying.
Like you can't just flat out be like, oh my God, I have a million things on my plate. Leave me alone.
No, I'm like, no, I'm getting to it. I'm so sorry.
Just maybe even like I've started telling them like, by the end of this week, I'll have something in.
Because then you're like subconsciously giving yourself a due date.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah,
that's been really helpful to me. Are there any other like fun, or not even, it doesn't have to be fun. Are there any other mistakes
not like
made?
Ones that I like wrote down? Are there any you're thinking about?
I'm thinking about, I feel like we talked about being stuck on cases. I feel like mistakes I've made.
Oh my gosh.
Just really not like time management sometimes. Like,
time management in general. I think just as a field, like it's really, really hard to like figure out when you're going to get everything done and like dedicating the time to get everything done without working at home. Yeah. I worked at home a lot in my first year.
I know we talked about that a lot. So if you want to check out those which episode was it in?
Oh my gosh.
I feel like, was it what to do as a new BCBA in that one?
Yeah, go look at it and talk like figuring out how to manage our times. We learned a lot.
So we talked about our mistakes. Now I kind of want to talk about why knowing what your mistakes are important, right?
Yeah. So, we kind of talked a little bit about like as BCBAs, we think that we have to be perfect, or we feel like it's hard to admit when we're doing things wrong. But as humans, like we are all going to make mistakes, and making mistakes isn't the end of the world. It's just how are you going to grow from them and how you react. Like, I feel like we're all about antecedent strategies as BCBAs. Like use that skill to your benefit and like learn from others' mistakes of like how you can proactively get ready for some of these situations.
I'm just going to throw like some of our problems out there and you can tell me some of like the antecedent strategies that you would do. Okay. So we kind of just talked about time management and like organization. What's an antecedent strategy that you would use to help in those situations?
Especially like with programming or like writing reports and my time management, like I put those things on the calendar. I plan my week far in advance.
So you're kind of writing like a written schedule out for yourself,
like,
right?
Yeah, even like, so sometimes we think to put on our calendar what we're billing, like my parent meetings, my supervisions. But at first I wasn't really putting like dedicated time to work on programs or dedicated time to work on like this little specific task. Right. Now I do that so that I'm like, this time I'm only dedicating on this learner's social story so that I don't get pulled to do 10 other things.
Right. Another one I know we talked about was like the functional analysis. Like what would you do in that situation as like, what would you do?
Like reactively or antecedently, you think?
Antecedently.
So it depends on the learner, but I'm going to like make sure I have the time and I dedicate the time for that behavior, like data, and like I get my data sheets ready.
I was going to say having like a set of data sheets ready someplace where you're not having to like, you know, we'll customize them later, but having templates ready for you to customize is really helpful.
Yeah, like once you start writing a lot of behavior plans, you learn like what data you enjoy. Like I like my ABC data. I don't like just free written ABC data because then I find my technicians.
You like the checklist.
Little check boxes for them to tell me like what happened. Because I find when I have free open data, like I'm like, wait,
the information isn't.
It's skewed and it like doesn't tell me, or it doesn't tell me like what the actual consequence was. They think it was the consequence.
I like to start with the free observation, and then go in and make the checklist after like a little bit.
See, that's a good way too. I just like to try and put in like each of the different functions, like possible like check boxes for each of the functions. Yeah. And then once I get a few, then I'll like minimize it and specify it to the learner too.
Nice. So another one, I got to look back at our notes that we talked about is the collaboration. So something I'll do like antecedently is like have like a form ready. Like who do I need to, like list of people that I may need to ask about. Yeah. Is like our grandparents involved? Does this client go to school?
Let's sign a release of info. Yeah. Can I talk to the school? Yeah. Can I talk to the pediatrician and other therapists?
Having all that ready so that when a behavior does occur or I need help or I need to like collaborate, I can do it easily.
You have the resources available. You're not like scrambling. You're like, oh my gosh, I need help from an OT on this learner. Now I have to wait, 2 weeks for the ROI to get signed, all of that.
And then something with the inconsistent implementation of strategies is like setting some time to do like the fidelity checks.
Yes.
And that one I feel like I still struggle with because, you get everything done and then you're like, okay, breathe.
It's like I finally got it done. And it's like, wait, no.
But then remembering, or something else may come. Now you're like, let me focus on because that happens a lot too. You're like, I got this down. Now let me focus on like programming.
Right. It's like, okay, I'm dedicating this supervision. So sorry, I have to like be on my computer and update programs. But we need to
go back,
dedicate the time to like the fidelity checks and IOA data.
So being like, maybe in like 2 days, I'll go back and we'll check that. Yeah. It's been helpful for me.
I think another mistake that we didn't really hit on that I'm like thinking about now, just like after talking with some of my technicians, I had some really great technicians who didn't require a lot of feedback. Yeah. So I'd be like, wow, great work. You did this wonderfully, blah, blah, blah. And like, it would just like be like, this learner's in great hands, but not taking into account like this technician wants wants to learn, wants to know like how they can improve. Yeah. And even though they may be doing like almost everything it
There's
feels
always
perfectly.
Something.
It's like, provide learning opportunities for your technicians so they don't feel stagnant and they know where to go with treatment.
Yeah. Or even if you really are like, what do I suggest? Like asking them what they don't feel confident with.
Yeah. Like having
is there anything you're struggling with? Are there any suggestions you have?
Yeah.
It's also like types of feedback, like a feedback conversation.
Agreed.
Do you have any other ones? I know. I feel like I've been naming like.
Yeah, I know. I think that you hit them all that I would have like wanted to talk about as far as antecedent goes.
Okay, cool. And then we already talked. It's like remembering that mistakes happen, but addressing them.
Yes, like it's our ethical duty to like stay up to date on like we said, like that research and stuff. Yeah. But then it's also on us to learn from our mistakes and provide the highest quality care. Yeah. And the way we can do that is like always growing and improving.
And admitting that we're human, we make mistakes.
Yeah.
Hey, I feel like that's the hard part though.
It's like admitting that, we can make mistakes and admitting our faults. It's the hardest part.
Yeah. And then also, if we're not addressing our mistakes, it could result to limited progress with the learner. So, that also kind of looks like I put something into intervention and saying like, well, maybe I got something wrong here.
I think about this a lot with programming. Like some days I'll be like, oh my gosh, why is this tacting target not moving an inch? Like I'm looking at the data and it's like 0, 0, 0, 20, 0, 0, 0. And it's in for a long time. Like it's okay to be like, okay, this learner is not learning based on what I think is best. We need to brainstorm. Like it's okay.
And this is, I feel like one that gets like happens a lot too because no one wants to admit.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what we're talking about. No one wants to admit that they're ever wrong.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
I agree. And then I kind of want to talk a little bit about like, we kind of talked about asking for help and seeking mentorship. Mm-hmm. Look for different ways to do that. So like with my situation, I didn't feel like I knew where to go to find a mentor or like a lead. But like use our resources like with the BCBA Facebook pages and stuff to our advantage. You can like seek out mentors that way if you don't have the opportunity.
I've seen so many people go on there and be like, I'm struggling with XYZ. is there anyone that can help?
Who can help me?
And they're always flooded with like a million responses after.
Yeah, and there are a lot of BCBAs who provide like ongoing supervision, mentorship. Like they have little flyers in the Facebook groups.
Yeah,
and like
and these
you can
people
look to
are
those.
really like motivated to teach other people.
It sounds like it's something that excites them. So like talk
There's
with
nothing
them.
wrong with reaching out to them.
Yes.
And I know like I've seen you can even post anonymously on those groups now if you're like shy.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to like tell everyone you're struggling.
Right.
And then figure it out from there.
Exactly.
And then also remembering that if you aren't like admitting your mistakes or not changing anything up, that's an ethical violation right there, right?
It really is. Yeah. You have to like know like where to grow and how to improve.
Right. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to some of our mistakes that we have made. We wanted to kind of get a perspective from the BCBAs on the floor. So we're going to take a little field trip and go down and ask everyone what some of their mistakes have been and some of their regrets.
That's the thing. There's personal stuff too.
Feel ready?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Kosei, we're asking everyone one of the mistakes they've made as a BCBA.
Okay, so I've made a lot, but I'd have to say the one that I've made the most is focusing too hard on like listener responding skills.
Can you elaborate on that?
I just think like there's too much of a emphasis on compliance in ABA and not enough on like advocating for kids and giving them voices.
It's a really good one. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for your time. Aisha, you're here. I have a question for you. As a new BCBA, what do you think was the biggest mistake you made?
Navigating a scenario where I didn't necessarily have the right competency to deal with a family situation.
I had a similar situation. What made it complex or out of your scope, do you think?
It had a criminal component to it, and just being able to navigate that situation and looking for more of support in that area, especially never having to dealing with a criminal component to the case.
I mean, who does?
Right.
I never heard about it until now.
Do you think you would kind of know how to handle it differently now?
Absolutely.
What do you think you would do?
I would have reached out more so to like just the team, like
the other team member, like a therapist, maybe,
yeah, or even reaching out to the supports coordinator on the case and things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
See
Get back to your writing.
These are great games, by the way. Thanks, Aisha. All right, Inas, we have a question for you.
Okay, hit me.
What? You've been a BCBA for a few years now.
Okay.
What do you think is the biggest mistake you made as a new BCBA?
One of the few was probably adding my texts on social media.
Oh,
yeah.
That we haven't gotten that answer yet.
Yeah. I feel like our texts are our friends. But there's like that professional line that shouldn't be crossed.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, it's proven that we should definitely not add them on social media.
Yeah.
Keep work to work. We can have like friendly conversations at work.
Yeah.
But nothing outside of that.
Those boundaries. Did you go through and delete them all?
I definitely did. I had to learn the hard way, but then after I learned from that experience, I went through and deleted all of them.
That's a good one. I like your unique answer.
That is a good one. All right.
Thank you for your time.
As friends on social media.
Taylor, you've been like in my life for quite a few years. I've known you since I was a tech. As a new BCBA, what is a mistake that you think you made that you want other people to avoid?
My biggest mistake is setting boundaries with parents and not answering them at nights on the weekends. I always want to, but once you open that door, it's hard to close. So
that was my answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had one of those too.
We work very hard, but got to have your time off. Yeah. So
respect those boundaries. Yes. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Bye. Yay. They don't want to meet with us, but we're going to meet with them.
We got stuff to do.
They're doing their job.
They have a job, but Emily B., we have a really important question for you.
Yes.
So what's been your biggest mistake as a BCBA?
You couldn't have prepped me for this?
No, it's supposed to be authentic.
Probably
not providing enough support for a high behavior kid when I needed to.
Okay, what does that mean?
Assuming that techs would be able to handle certain situations that they hadn't seen before without having me there to help them.
That's a good one. I like that. All right, Jennifer, what you eating?
Pizza.
All right, what's been your biggest mistake as a BCBA?
I was worried you were going to ask me the same question.
Oh, no.
My biggest mistake as a BCBA, I think, would be being rigid and inflexible. Probably for the same reasons of like needing to support other kids, but
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, what did your rigidity affect, like within your supervisions?
it honestly, I think it mainly impacted my like persona, like my
Like your confidence?
no, like the way I presented myself to the tech. So like when I would get I would get abrasive. Yeah, and then like not be like gentle and supportive. It would be like no. Oh, shoot,
This is the way you have to do it.
So you felt like you were providing feedback
like
as like nicely as you could?
yes,
maybe?
yeah, or like if somebody was pulling for me in different directions, like two people, I would like be really direct to the one and then be like, okay, to the other. And so
It's hard. It's hard figuring it out.
yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for being so open
Thanks for
and
your
transparent with
time.
us. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good meeting.
What did they say?
I love that you did that with pizza in your hand.
But we have a good question for you.
Okay, what is it?
Something that people can learn from. So we want others to learn from us and the mistakes that we've made. So what's a mistake that you've made as a BCBA?
I would say just setting boundaries from the beginning of like a parent clinician relationship.
Yeah.
A lot of times parents are like they use parent meetings and things like that to vent, but sometimes it's hard to like redirect,
Get back on
that
track.
conversation.
Yeah.
So I think just setting those boundaries and that precedence from the beginning.
Yeah, like what the
will help.
expectations for the meeting is going to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
Jasmine.
on camera. You're our newest BCBA.
Yeah.
So it's your second day. How do you think your first day has gone? Yesterday and today.
It's good.
You've been doing really well. I love seeing you out on the floor. So within your first day, what do you think is the biggest mistake you made yesterday as a BCBA?
Telling everyone to follow the new schedule to a T.
Were you not flexible?
No.
Me either.
All right. So what are you doing today that's going to make it a little different?
For a lot of my kids, I said stay in as long as you can tolerate and just at least come back to the room before the end of the time.
I like that.
I love that you noticed it like immediately and are already fixing it. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Hey, Katie. Hi.
Yes.
All right. So you've been a BCBA for how long now?
Almost 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I feel like in 2 years, there's a few mistakes you could have made, right?
You've grown a little bit.
Of course, we all make mistakes.
And like, we have a whole like 40-minute segment about the mistakes
Everything
we
we've
made.
done. Yeah.
So I wanted to know what was one of your biggest mistakes you made?
I would say, I think taking on this role, a lot of times we don't take into account the work-life balance. So I think taking a lot of work home and always working at home when we need to take a step back and be able to have like our personal and professional life
Girl,
and finding
same.
that balance.
It's hard.
I think that was just something that I think all of us can do in the field.
Yeah.
That's great, Lauren.
Don't
Thanks
take
for
everything
sharing.
home. You don't need to.
No.
Thanks,
leave it at work.
Come sit.
Hey,
We have some questions for you.
what color is this? Oh, what color are those?
Gray?
Oh. What's your name?
Selena.
Touch your head. All right, we have a question for you. What's been the biggest mistake you made as a BCBA?
Moving programs up too quickly, causing ratio strain.
What does that mean?
So ratio strain is when you expect more than the reinforcement that you're giving. Yeah.
All right, going forward, how can you fix this?
I usually wait like a week or two before I like move the program either out of like intervention or come up with a different strategy.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I like that.
That's a really
very
good
unique
one.
Answer.
It's different, and I feel like we do it. It happens to all of us.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. 2.0, second question again. So what do you feel like is a mistake you've made as a BCBA?
I would say, I think starting out especially would be programming right from the assessment tools. I think it's super important to always remember that we should be individualizing the goals and we don't need to pull from, whatever goal that the VP Map says we should be doing or ABLES.
I like that. That's a good one.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Thanks guys.
Bye.
So Jenny,
Yes.
I already talked to you about your mistake, but then I got to thinking,
Okay.
can we operationally define mistake?
Well, I mean, absolutely. It's a behavior, right? So.
Yeah. I'm thinking,
But how would be?
Is it a behavior?
You wouldn't define a mistake as behavior?
I think. Can a dead man do it? Or no? Is it? Wait, is it?
A dead man wouldn't be able to make a mistake because they're just laying there. Unless the mistake is that they were supposed to stand.
See, that's
Plot twist.
I know, but I think you could consider it a mistake.
Yeah. I agree. So.
Or you could consider it behavior. Sorry.
Yeah, a mistake is a behavior. So.
I looked up the real definition.
Wait, you did?
Yeah,
let's read it.
The dictionary definition. So, mistake as a noun, an action or judgment that is misguided or wrong, or a verb, or using it in a verb. Sorry, I'm not like a spelling bee kid. Be wrong about.
An action or judgment that is
misguided or wrong.
Misguided or wrong. So then we have to define what misguided and wrong is.
Yeah, so this is hard.
So then the question is who's defining what is misguided or wrong? Like, is it society? Is it the culture that you live in?
Well, I want to, so since we went around asking everybody what their mistakes was.
So maybe we look at a mistake being based on the ethics code.
Yeah. So just let me look it up on the ethics code. Hold my mic.
Do you think the ethics code would tell us whether or not we made a mistake?
No, but let's look up some of the mistakes or some of the things the ethics code tells us.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So here, I'll pull it up for both of us. So I just have the table of contents out. I would hope people have read through this again. I'm just using this as a little prompt for myself. So responsibility as a professional.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it, it's being truthful, conforming with legal and professional requirements, accountability. I feel like a lot of us had this mistake.
Yeah.
Right?
Holding us accountable.
Yeah. What do you think?
So, yeah, I think maybe the operational definition looking at all of these would be any time that the ethics code is the word I was thinking of was inhibited, but I don't like that word.
No, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think.
I know, yeah. So
anytime a violation of the ethics code occurs is a mistake.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But then, unintentionally.
Yeah.
I think you have to add in the unintentional part because then otherwise you could just be being unethical.
Yeah.
If it's not unintentional.
Okay, I need to write this out, or are you going to remember it? I need to say it in a sentence.
Right now, right? So anytime the ethics code is violated unintentionally.
That's a mistake.
Is a mistake.
That's our operational definition.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's good, Jenny.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting with me and talking that through.
Yeah, I'm glad we got this figured out.
Have you been a BCBA?
It has been exactly 1 year, actually, this month. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's been a year
ago? Yeah.
You still?
In a way.
In a way. What does that mean?
Well, I was a QBHP before I was a BCBA.
Okay.
So I had supervisor experience before I passed my exam, which was helpful because I got to learn a lot about what it would be like to be a supervisor before actually having the title of BCBA.
So you feel like you got to make some of those mistakes without having
the pressure of the title.
Yeah.
Which was helpful.
That is nice though.
Yeah.
I feel like, and you have someone to report back to, right?
Yes.
I'm struggling with this. What do I do?
Yes,
so
exactly.
So when you were a BCBA, what do you feel like was a mistake you made that you regret, or something that you regret?
Yeah, so it's such an interesting question because there's always things that you play back in your head of should I have done this program? I guess even implementing different programs of is this the way the child learns best?
Yeah, and it's stuff that keeps you up at night sometimes, I feel like, right? Or after a kid graduates or discharges, thinking back,
should I have done that? Or after you learn something new, you're like, oh, I wish I knew that back then, right?
Yes. And especially after like getting to collaborate with speech and OT, like looking back at when I was a QBHP, before I was a BCBA, I just never collaborated.
Yeah.
It was just me doing
you thought
supervisor things. I'm like, oh, I'll just put this program in because this makes sense of like what should be next without considering like, can he actually sit in a chair with like his proper like posture and things like that. So I guess collaborating earlier on is something I wish I did more.
Okay, I like
taking
that one.
into consideration of like other people's opinions and suggestions, because especially
they're important, and they know so much more. I mean, not that they know so much.
They do, yeah,
and they know things we don't know.
Exactly, and I think like my professors in school always hounded us for not participating with speech and OT because they might not have been as scientific as ABA in the field as ABA.
But which like sucks because
it does. I went into the field being like, oh, I shouldn't trust them.
No, that's horrible. Who taught you
that? Because now I talk to them, I'm like, wow, that's so smart. Like, why didn't I think of that idea or that suggestion or whatever that might be?
Well, I'm glad you learned something.
Yes, I have definitely learned and growing still as a BCBA.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, Julia.
Yeah, thank you for asking me.
We talked about common mistakes, some of our own mistakes, and that it's important to remember to grow from them.
Our third code word is reflect. Yeah.
So until next time, we'll see you later.
Talk to you soon. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want your CEU credits, go to our website at blossomchildrencenter.com.
Talk to you later.
See you.